Hi, this is Dr. Grace. Today, I want to talk about communication. And there are many aspects to communication that we could cover and talk about. But today, I want to focus on modality. It's preferred modality of communication. How do you prefer to receive communication from the others? What are you better at? And at the same time, if it's your spouse, your children, your family members, what is their preferred modality? For example, are you a person who loves emailing and texting? And there are people who would rather pick up the phone and talk on the phone and hear the voice and go back and forth. And they could communicate the best that way. Depending on the modality that you prefer, then you need to think about how the other person receives your communication. So it's really oversimplifying it, but one simple way to describe two types of people, and it's not only two types, but in general, broad way to describe types of people. First is visual, and that's actually my category. I'm a visual person, so what I see can be distracting, and because it's distracting, I need to be in a place where I am not surrounded by lots of visual distracting things. That's why my house is usually in order, because I cannot stand chaos. So I need to clean up the mess before I can study or do anything. So I need to have orderly environment before I can do anything and focus. And there are people whose modality are auditory. They need to have quiet before they can focus. They don't care about the mess in the house, but they need to have quiet to do their thing, to sleep, whatever it is. If there's too much noise going on, it really bothers them. And depending on whether you are an auditory person or visual person, you react differently. And your spouse or your family members will react differently too. And it's good to know. That way, when you are with a person who is of different modality, what doesn't bother you, it bothers them, and vice versa. For example, if the house is messy and there are things everywhere, I need to stop and put things away before I can continue with what I wanted to do. And somebody who is an auditory person may not see the need to clean up before you can do your homework, but that will be me wanting to put the books away and clean up the area before I can do my homework. That's when I was a student. And for an auditory person, it doesn't matter what's around, they just need to have a quiet. And they need to be able to sleep with the quiet or be able to hear you and talk out things. So think about whether you are a visual person or an auditory person, as well as if your child or if your spouse, if your close friend is auditory or visual. And that way, by understanding how they function the best, you accommodate them. So I am a very visual person, and my husband is a very auditory person. So when he gets upset with the level of noise, I need to understand it bothers him even though it doesn't bother me. Just like when there is a mess, it bothers me, but not much for him. So we learn to accommodate the other person. And when the time comes for you to communicate, you really want to use both auditory and visual. For example, show what you want to talk about and explain. That way you are doing both visual and auditory. And when you are dealing with children, especially young ones, and you're not sure, you may have a feeling whether they are more visual or auditory. Depending on what you perceive, you can always do multimodal. So show them what needs to be done or what you are talking about, but at the same time, explain verbally what it is that you're talking about. That way, communication is clear when there is both visual and auditory for the other person to understand. And that goes especially for children who are learning new things and you're trying to explain new concepts to them, as well as for adults when we're communicating with others, being able to know what my strengths and weaknesses are, as well as the other person's. That way there's no misunderstanding, especially no frustration, that the other person is not understanding like you want them to, because they are of different modality. So I would encourage all people to communicate both using visual and auditory in explaining and communicating with the others, and you will see it is very helpful. That's it for today. See you next time.